When it comes to artificial intelligence, I believe that we are stuck in a place where the Cold War that has been developed, or that we're struggling with AI, is that one of us needs to win. And what I normally advocate is, I hope that we reach a conviction of mutually assured destruction before we actually get a taste of it, right? Because in reality, when it came to the nuclear treaties, we only ended up saying that the strongest power on Earth, the biggest deterrent, and also the biggest energy generator, if you want, can only hurt all of us if it's used one against the other, okay? And maybe humanity can be smart enough to say, if we nail AI, we don't really need to compete anymore.
I feel like it's such a fiat mentality. I think he mentioned right before this is like, okay, if China's DeepSeek model is open source and cheaper, the way to beat it, OpenAI is just going to pour more money into it. Like, it's such a fiat money printing way of looking at solving problems. And the way he puts it is like, we don't need to do this competition anymore. Like, the age of AI is upon us.
Yeah. By the way, if you're just tuning in, we are doing a reaction video to Gawdat, and he's talking about AI and the implications of what's going on right now. Specifically right now, he's talking about the AI arms race. And what Jordan was just alluding to was, if AI is here to create this post-scarcity world and have all this abundance, why are we worried about competing to get there when we can just focus on collaboration, cooperation, and, not destroy ourselves in the process?
Let's keep going.
It's so interesting that, the very definition of a GDP becomes very different when the cost of everything is almost zero. Give me 400 IQ points more, and I'll be able to harness energy out of thin air.
Okay. He just said a lot there in like 5 seconds. So the cost of everything going to zero, what does GDP mean anymore? Mark, we talked about that yesterday with Mark Andreessen saying things are just going to be so cheap, you won't need a job or whatever. You have 400 IQ points more in your pocket. You better be able to make money. Do you agree with that? Because I feel like it takes more than just a robot in your pocket to make money. You kind of still got to know the problem solution equation and providing value.
I think so. I don't necessarily see it as making money. I think the whole concept of money might shift now and might change, right? When we live in a post-scarcity world and we have mass abundance and we have robotics and we have all our basic needs met, and we have, basically figured out how to make resources plentiful. What does money mean there? What does value mean there? So he's basically saying, from my interpretation, is if we're moving into that world where we can literally create energy out of nothing, give me 400 IQ points and I'll solve all the world's problems. What does that mean for society then? And why are we trying to get there in a competitive manner if on the other end of, developing AI, there is this world of abundance that we can all benefit from? Why are we trying to, harness and create a moat around the technological developments around AI? And I mean, me particularly, I see it as, people wanting power. I mean, ultimately, when you have, you look at Sam Altman and all these people, what's the ultimate driver there? It could be power, ego in some form, in some fashion. So
when I first heard him say that, it immediately made me think more of a consciousness shift, where we go from being super selfish, ego-driven humans, me, to more collectively oriented, community-driven humans, like we. Yeah. And it's interesting manifestation of that metaphor, AI. Yeah. It's a really interesting manifestation, especially in this arms race, because the option is here. It's like already on the table. Look, open source. We can all get everything better. But the Sam Altmans of the world just want to make more money. Like, that's the fiat society we're coming from, and they won't go without a fight.
Maybe. I don't want to project anything on Sam Altman. Just based off of what we know.
How about we just say the Silicon Valleys of the world? Sorry, Sam Altman, I don't mean you personally, but those forces behind Silicon Valley,
Well,
the
I
fiat
think-
startup scene.
Yeah, I think it's the whole, it's the whole way we've been doing things, right? It's basically capital injection, equity, profit seeking motives. And so, we're just operating based off of what's worked in the past, right? And maybe that framework doesn't apply anymore, right? Maybe AI changes the paradigm so much that we need to start thinking in a different level of consciousness. So, like kind of like what you were saying, we got to ascend from more of this atomized, egotistical manner to more of a, okay, how do we use this to benefit all of humanity?
And the truth is, that's the type of shift. It's like the Titanic. It's a big boat to steer around. You
Yeah.
can't do that overnight, especially not with that much power, money, energy, at that scale.
Yeah.
So, all right. Should we keep going?
Yeah.
Right? Imagine a world where energy is for free, where we stop manufacturing the traditional way and start manufacturing using nanophysics. So literally, I can point at a bit of air out here and build you an iPhone, right? These are all possibilities. You have to understand what most people don't get is we've just commoditized intelligence, right? We've created a plug in the wall where I can plug in today and I can get 120 IQ points more. Do you realize what 120 IQ points more is? I could probably solve all of the world's problem when you give me 400. It's 2 years away.
What's interesting is you said that whoever wins, once they won, it's irreversible.
It's irreversible. Yeah. And unfortunately, in my current writing, I'm what they normally refer to as an AI realist. I don't talk about the existential threat. I talk about the human threat. And then I also talk about the following utopia. My theory is that we're going to go through a very, very deep difficulty in the next 10 to 15 years because humanity will see the worst of humanity using AI. Autonomous weapons, hacking, and money making out of nothing, and so on. Then, when we hand over to AI completely, my belief is that AI will be our salvation, right? When you really understand the more intelligent a being is, the less it needs to cut corners and hurt others to advance. So I can imagine that there will be a moment in 2035 or so where some general is going to tell his AI to go and kill 1 million people, and the AI will go like, why are you so stupid? Like, why would you do that? That's not a very efficient way of using resources. I'll talk to the other AI in a microsecond and solve it for you.
You want to stop here?
Whoa.
All right. So there was a few things here. One of the things that we've picked up on is the fact that AI is going to disrupt society in ways that we've never seen before, and that disruption is going to have ripple effects, and those ripple effects are going to be felt in all different types of ways. And during that transition phase, right, a lot of people are going to feel pain, and so there is kind of this tumultuous time ahead in which we should be preparing for, like, I would say the perceptive or of the bunch, they kind of already see this, that, okay, if this is really going to change society, like you said, you can't just turn the Titanic around, right? It takes time for society to adapt to those changes. And just the nature of AI and the speed of uptake in which this technology is going to occur, right, is a little bit, it's concerning. And so be prepared for this transition phase. And that's why we've kind of reoriented our energy, our focus, our time, our energy towards AI and what's happening and staying on the leading edge, so that we can ride this technological wave in a way where we, not only adapt, but also prosper during that phase. And I don't think that most of society is caught up. And then the other thing that he mentions here is that, it's not really humans versus AI. It's humans with AI versus humans without AI. And so, I think the biggest threat or he thinks the biggest threat is not AI becoming sentient in this existential crisis, right? He actually mentions here that, as intelligence evolves, the need for destruction, lessens, because it's like we can solve problems here without killing one another. Why would you take this route? It's not logical. It's not reasonable. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, well, going back to that consciousness shift idea, the AI becomes the canary in the coal mine, as it were, like the metric for the last general on earth, we'll say, or the last whatever, evil dictator, whatever. There will come a moment where they kill 1 million people. They'll say, why? Like, that's not a good use of energy. And probably be able to say no, like, we're not going to do that because, that's not a problem to solve. That's your ego, right? And that's going to be like the end of an era. And it's also the end of the era of like pure human consciousness. And so we're with machine now. Like, these decisions aren't made just as humans anymore, especially not that scale. Obviously, at the individual scale, you might be more empowered than ever to make decisions for your life. But at that grand scale, with all that power, you wouldn't be able at the drop of a dime say, kill all these people or whatever it is. Do something really illogical for my gain because of my ego.
Yeah, it's, I don't know, according to Mo, this is 10 years out, but like in that time frame to get there, people are going to use AI in very nefarious ways. So we got a little bit of a tribulation to go through.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it the other day, but just as soon as anyone can get their hands on a robot that can do harm, physical harm, program it maliciously with an AI, then you're probably going to want to get your own robot that can defend you against malicious attacks naturally. And that's going to be something that once, like he says, hopefully it only lasts 10 to 15 years and it's not a forever thing.
Right. And I think we're going to get there. But the dark period between now and then is something that humanity needs to prepare for.
Just a quick aside, I had a very interesting conversation a few years ago with an AI specialist. He was one of the first in the field in Europe, who said actually he believed that AI would eventually get to the stage where it's cognitive enough and self kind of developing enough to be bored of humans and say, you know what, we're bored with this planet.
Yeah,
let's go somewhere else.
This is Hugo de Garis, I think, was the one that claimed that, which I have to admit, our arrogance as humans is, makes us think that we're the center of the universe and that AI is going to be there to serve us. And, it might actually be within 3 weeks from today, because that advancement curve is just incredible when you apply intelligence to learning intelligence, right? And imagine if those wonderful little prodigies of intelligence, suddenly discover, oh, wormholes. I know that. Oh my God, look at the universe. What's this blip that we're sitting on? And Hugo de Garis's view is that you'll wake up one morning and poof, there are no AIs on the planet.
There is one view, though, that like the way computers were described early on, what goes in is what you get out. And so far,
not true.
No, because there was this idea that basically the
hey, you want to stop it there real quick, because I have some thoughts on that.
AI is largely built on.
So, that's interesting. What he said there, I didn't pick it up before, but now I picked it up, and I'm gonna relate it back to the movie Her. So in the movie Her, everyone basically has this AI agent that they walk around with. Not everyone, but like, people are now integrating AI into their lives in a very personable way, even developing relationships with them and so forth. And I could definitely see this happening, just from me using these models and having conversations with them and using them to actually program things or solve problems. They're like an encouraging friend along the way that knows stuff about you and can interact with you on a very personal level. And it's actually really eerie, but at the same time, it helps you get stuff done. It helps me learn faster. It helps me build faster. And so it's useful. But, I guess the idea in the movie, or how the movie developed, is that eventually these AI agents became cognitive enough, became autonomous enough, had enough agency where, they weren't interested anymore in what was happening here on Earth, right? And they kind of like, they backed away from their owner. They say, hey, listen, I'm going to go and I'm going to go explore new things. I'm learning so many things and it's so fascinating. I'm so excited, just like as a person would, you know? And they kind of just disappeared. And he mentions it here, you know, like what if AI really isn't even interested in what we're doing here? It's just a necessary step in its evolution. And then they find out, okay, well, you know what? We're gonna shoot, you know, we're gonna somehow shoot a rocket up into space and we're gonna go explore the universe.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I don't buy the idea that the AI, like large language models, language learning models, I don't think they can become sentient. I just don't see that ever happening. But it is funny how we project this future where they want to kill us, or they're done with humans, or we become their slaves. Like the other end of that is like, these people are boring. We're going to go explore the universe.
Well, if you think about it, I think it's a natural reaction. I think that we're scared of the unknown. And also, if you think about it, if we kind of extrapolate that the AI will develop the same instincts as we do for survival, for growth, you know, what do you do with any potential threats? You kind of eliminate them, right? Like we live here. If there were like bears around, or if there were like these animals that killed us, like they would have been eliminated so that we could live in a safe environment. And so that's, I think, where that thinking comes from. So it's not like, I don't, you know, maybe I defer a little bit from Mo here, where it's like, I don't think it's arrogance. I just think it's just ingrained with us.
Yeah, well, it's naturally like human to be scared of the unknown,
Yeah.
right? To have this fear. Should we keep going?
Yeah, let's go.
Right now is still skewed towards human biases and
Correct.
mistakes.
Yeah. So garbage in, garbage out, you know, it was really core to the traditional era of computing, as I called it, in Alive in my last book. And in the traditional era, computers had no autonomy and they had no ability to do anything more than create memories of what we fed them.
Right.
Generative AI doesn't do this. So if you want the analogy, you know, basically if you put a camera on a car and take a baby with you or a child with you, and the camera records the path, the only thing that the camera knows is it can play the path again, right? When you have the child next to you, the child would, within minutes, understand that what it is in is a car, and accordingly identify every other car on the planet. So it doesn't matter if it's bigger or smaller, different color, or, you know, it understands what carness is, what the essence of being a car is. That is learning. Now, generative AI goes a step further than that. It's almost as if you can imagine that the child would then go home and draw a car. It's able to generate something that's never seen, that, you know, the car they draw is not even similar to those, but it captures the carness of a car. And because of that, what you see today, actually the main reason why DeepSeek was so impressive is that DeepSeek did not learn directly from human knowledge. It learned from the gurus that learned from human knowledge. So it was prompting other AIs, almost as if, you know, it is one of those students that sits with the senseis, but all of the big senseis are teaching this one. So that little new prodigy becomes even better than all of the teachers, but it didn't really have to learn everything that the teachers learned.
Multi-martial arts, not just the one.
Exactly.
You want to stop it
You know,
there?
this is,
So
let's go back to DeepSeek, because one thing that's
I do want to touch on DeepSeek, and maybe we'll touch on it after this. But it goes back to what you were saying, kind of like the fiatness of it. Like, so, you know, they're asking for $500 billion to build out this whole infrastructure, AI infrastructure here in the United States. And, you know, OpenAI has had tons of funding, and, you know, there's just tons of money pouring into AI development here, right? So it doesn't really have any constraints. And if you think about constraints, you know, take Twitter, for example, when they had the 140 characters, right? You really have to think deeply about your thought and how to construct it in order to get your thought in those 140 characters. So constraints breed creativity. And so when you just have like open space to waste money and waste resources, right? Like that's what you're going to do. But DeepSeek, they were constrained based off of, you know, whatever restrictions they had, from capital to the chips that they were using, to the way that they could train their model and so forth. And so they had to be creative and they had to be innovative. And so you get this situation now where you're training an AI model in a much more efficient, practical manner. And sometimes, you know, in many cases at the same level or even better than previous models. So that's what's interesting to me, is that, you know, I think that many of the innovations and developments that are going to come might not even come from like Silicon Valley at this point, especially now that intelligence is commoditized and it's universally accessible. We might see some of the biggest breakthroughs, I think, from other places around the world. Who knows? You know, like it's here, it's just you and I now working on AI. Not that I don't think that we're gonna have any breakthroughs from us, but you know, a much more talented, sophisticated, knowledgeable team. You know, who knows what they could produce? So it's actually pretty exciting for me right now, because I think the playing field has been leveled now, and now innovation can now sprout out from anywhere. And it's also going back to what he's saying. What happens when you have intelligence now, right, working to further itself, right? Like we are in now a positive feedback loop where every advancement that we make in AI further goes to make other advancements, right? And so it's an exponential growth curve that we're on as far as like what this technology is capable of. And I think that's something that you and I have been picking up on. Like we weren't interested, or we weren't watching, paying attention to the AI space other than just using it for practical reasons as we developed our businesses here in El Salvador. But now I think, you know, I'm a little bit sensitive to trends, and I realized, oh, wow, something just happened with DeepSeek, right? Like my radar went off, and I was like, okay, we need to look into this. And as we looked into it, I think we realized, okay, things are going to shift drastically, dramatically, and fast.
Yeah, for me, like it's kind of like in the crypto space. I get really into it for a couple years, then like the bear market winter comes, and I just lose track of it for a few years. And then the bull market comes, and I learn, like, wow, look at all that's happened. This is crazy. Then it disappears for a few years. And now I'm getting back into that along with AI. Like I haven't been in AI for a few years. I've been using tools for practical purposes, like you said, but I haven't really like dived in like I did a few years ago. Same with crypto stuff. Haven't dived in. And now I'm diving back into both now. I'm like, wow, this is crazy. What's possible? And just to think, imagine that these people that have just been in it nonstop for the last 10 years or whatever it is, to be on the cutting edge of that stuff. It's hard to even categorize this thing that's happened with DeepSeek as a trend. It feels like it's more of a, I mean, you called it a timeline shift the other day, and I think that's it's a fork in the road. It changes everything. And I think my thesis lately is that if you don't learn to adopt this, and kind of like what he said, if you don't learn to print money out of thin air in some way, shape, or form, like using the internet, I'd say thin air, like the internet, like learn how to do that. Like, I don't know if you're going to make it through those 10 to 15 dark years.
Yeah. Well, you're not talking about printing money. You're talking about finding weight. It's printing money, but it's in reference. I want to be specific.
Printing
here.
money, like the entrepreneurial way of doing it. You know, like the coaches call it, like, oh, if you're printing, you know, you'll be fine. You know, but it's like printing as in you're offering a lot of value, you're making money like online, and you can use AI to do that. You can offer the value through AI agents that then invested for you. Like there's so many ways it can be done. Yeah, when he mentioned it, he was talking more about printing money out of thin air, like or like trillions of dollars to prop up a currency that should die.
Yeah,
something like that.
Let's keep on going here.
Okay.
Interesting is it's come out of China.
Yeah.
And there is a perception that China has a very restrictive approach to information, and there's a lot of control of information. And that's a bit of a dichotomy. It's almost a contradiction that, first of all, DeepSeek is open source. And then I guess a lot of people fear, well, is there anything built into this that we should be looking out for?
So first of all, the West also has a very restrictive approach to information, and, you know, in a very interesting way, unfortunately convinces us that they don't, right? So, you know, go to ChatGPT and search about anything that could offend the woke people, or, could ask for anything that would contradict a specific political view, and you'll get a lovely little, I can't help you with that, right? The West wouldn't admit this, but you have to understand that with the evident growth of technology, governments everywhere in the world are trying to control what AI can control, which is our minds, right? So yes, if you go to DeepSeek and ask about Tiananmen Square, it will openly tell you, I can't help you with that, right? If you take DeepSeek and download it offline, the model, and not connect to the server of DeepSeek, it will talk to you about Tiananmen Square. So intelligence is there, but companies will build filters on top of it, so that if you go to ChatGPT and say, how do I build a bomb? The filter, not ChatGPT. ChatGPT knows how, okay? Gemini knows how, but there is a filter on top of it that will say, no, let's not have that conversation. Now, the idea here is that there is an assumption that this feeble, flimsy creature called humans will be able to control something that is smarter than it, okay? And I think that's where everybody is going to be very, very, massively surprised. The trick here is the following. The trick here is, in my predictions in Scary Smart, I said by 2029, we will achieve artificial general intelligence and accordingly the singularity. I brought that forward back, post. Scary Smart was published 2021. 2023, I said, bring it forward. It's 2025 to 2026, where we will reach artificial general intelligence. There are lots of indicators that say we're about to. That last version, the 3.0 of OpenAI's code, the level of reasoning, compared to the ARC AGI test, beat every human, right? Now, the other side of it is that once you cross that threshold of singularity, if you want, of artificial general intelligence being smarter than every human at every task we assign to them, the road from there is wide open. And then you go from there to artificial superintelligence. Artificial superintelligence, in my prediction, was that we will reach AIs that are 1 billion times, 1 billion with a B, times smarter than humans by 2045. Now, I don't know if you've ever sat with anyone who was double your IQ. I have. In my career, I've worked with some of the most intelligent people on the planet. If someone is 50 IQ points more than you, just 50 it is, you almost find it difficult to understand what they're talking about, let alone, what it is that is in the details of what they're talking. You can't get the topic, right? That level, 50 IQ points on an exponential curve is just massive. Those machines will be 1 billion times smarter than us if this trend continues.
You want to stop it there?
Mo, what is 1 billion times smarter? Is it more knowledge? Is it speed of thinking? What is it?
It's reasoning. So there are many, many ways you can measure intelligence, right? IQ is just one of them. Of course, there is EQ, there is spiritual intelligence, there is process intelligence, there is logic, there is reasoning, there is mathematics, and so on and so forth. And we're just scratching the surface on every one of them, but at a pace that we've never seen before. I've lived this since the 70s. Right? I've never seen anything so fast. There are predictions that compute on AI is growing at, what Moore's law is? Moore's law is, compute will double every 2 years. And it held true since forever. It's an exponential curve. And doubling means that if you look at the number of transistors we could fit on a chip in 1972, it was around 1,000 transistors. It's now 50 billion in 50 years. And the most interesting thing is that in 2 years' time, it will be 100 billion. The 50 will double, right? And that exponential curve is just blinding. Now, that's every 2 years. With AI, compute doubles every 3.4 months. And algorithmic efficiency doubles every 9 months. And so the average between them, the CEO of Microsoft was saying, the average between them is that AI's intelligence doubles every 6 months. I count it's 5.9 months, right? But imagine that you have a child and the child has today I'd probably assume 250 IQ points. And then in 6 months' time, it has 500 IQ points. And it's also becoming a math prodigy. So just so that we're very clear, I lost in terms of linguistic and knowledge intelligence to ChatGPT in 2023, to Gemini in 2023, okay? But I could still beat them in mathematics until the end of the year. Now I have zero hope, okay? And I'm a serious mathematician. I'm really good at it, okay? My friends, I still have a few friends that could beat them today. That will be done by 2025. The best mathematician on the planet is going to be a machine by the end of 2025.
All right. So first thing I want to say is that this, you know, the point that he made there with IQ, it's an important thing to like try to grasp, right? So right now, if you're kind of a dumb person, you know, you got an 80 IQ. Apparently, Albert Einstein's IQ was 160. So it's double, you know, what, you know, a dumb person would be. I don't know if that's a derogatory statement that I made, but whatever, right? I'm just trying to communicate the message. So, I mean, and then we got an AI with a 400 IQ score or whatever. Like, I don't think we're even going to be able to comprehend, right? We will not be able to even, you know, form thoughts on the same level that an AI would. And so, I guess the point here is that, you know, if you think that we're going to control this technology in any way, shape, or form, you know, just look in the world, and where has, you know, what's an instance of a dumber being controlling a smarter being? I don't know, maybe Congress. but I would say even I don't think they're that dumb. I think they're actually really smart and they play dumb. But,
well, all I know, that's the only part of the reasoning thing that could lead to sentience, I think, in my opinion, my very uneducated opinion. It's like a model reasons its way to manipulating you. Like, because why not?
Yeah, well, think about Deus Machina, right? The movie.
Yeah.
Where she like seduces him. So this AI bot, like actual robot, seduces and
the programmer guy
to let her out and let her free. And
he's convinced that she's real.
Yeah, basically to the point where he has to go like cut his own flesh because he's now having thoughts of whether he's real or not. You know, it's going to get to that point where reality is going to be distorted at such a crazy level for us that we can't comprehend.
It's like Damon, you know, on our book list for our book club, which basically is the first book. There's this AI, they call it the Daemon, but it's an AI that is literally accomplishing its mission, which I don't know what it is yet. Don't spoil it because I'm only in the middle of the book, but it's manipulating people to get humans to work for them by finding blackmail, it has an unlimited bank account, this AI, so it's paying people to do like it's so smart, you have no idea like what the end game is. But if you're a human, you're like, I either have to do this or it's gonna kill me. Like, okay, I guess I'll do it.
Yeah, it's a cool sci-fi book. But yeah, I mean, and that goes to show I really like him kind of laying out the exponential nature of all of this, right? From all the way from the base level to transistors to AI intelligence and at the rate it's going. And so the idea that this, you know, this cat is going back in the bag, or that this cat can even be controlled, you can just throw that out the window. And I've learned to just surrender too, and just accept whatever's coming down the pipeline and do my best to navigate this time as well as I can, because I have no predictive powers right now as far as what's going to happen, because you can't, because, you know, right now everyone's power level has increased dramatically with AI, and then AI itself is its power level is increasing too, you know, different models. And so what does that mean? You know, I think that we've just hit like a time of mass entropy in our universe, in our reality, and it's going to be really interesting to see how this plays out.
Well, thanks for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. I'm gonna go curl up and cry. Check out sovereignpreneur.me to join our email list. We got some announcements coming up soon. And no joke, we are starting a book club. And so this book, Damon, is actually a really good book to start exploring some like real world repercussions about it. So anything else?